First, I would like to add it on a little bit about the meditation, particularly people who are relatively new, learning to do the meditation or wanting to do the meditation. So this is our fourth day. So that means a little bit, the almost at the middle of this course. My experience leading this kind of gathering, usually around, say, the seven, if we have the course 7 days, around third, fourth day, people show the, sign of exhaustion. Because when the first day, there's a tremendous enthusiasm. What I'm going to learn in these 7 days, and what this person is going to say, which I have never heard before, and what kind of instant solutions he or she is going to give. So there's this enthusiasm, there's this excitement, and when day passes, there's nothing new to be heard. There's no instant solutions. He keeps saying, oh, you need to work on this for a long time, gradually, and then, plus, day after day, sitting for, 6 sessions, 4 sessions, and some are quite long sessions, the morning from 9 to 12, have a short tea break. It's relatively quite long sessions. And people who are not familiar with the sitting on a cushion with their crossed legs. And so around the, fourth day, or third and fourth, it shows, people show exhaustions, disbelief, and certain extent, why I'm here. One time it happened because when I was in the UK, the center where I was mainly working, that's in city center. And the city center, it is not that easy to lead this kind of day after day retreats. So, usually the weekend weekend retreat or like that kind of gathering. But I used to lead retreat up in the Austria Graz mountain, just outside Graz. There's a nice retreat center. So I led maybe 8 or 9 August not full August, about 10 days retreat. It was very, very nice up in the mountain. We were quite relatively quite high. Winter, always heavy snow, but around from May to October, late October, early November, it's very, very beautiful out there. So this, so I let, anyway, a retreat every August, first week, about 10 days. And, up there, nobody will bother you apart from cows. There are lots of cows around. And the farmers, the harvesting or the cutting the grass for the winter. And occasionally you hear that very powerful tractors, cutting and rolling. Otherwise, it's really peaceful. And I usually get a very good walk after the lunch up the mountain. So we have one session around 4:30 to 5:30 or 5:45, 5:15, about 45 to an hour. We're having what you call the round sitting discussion. That's the only time that we talk. The first day we talk, last day we talk, but otherwise really silent. And later I found out after the first or second retreat, later I found out people really look forward to that session because they have something to say. So anyway, and so that those leading these kind of retreats, I've learned, the people show the exhaustions. That's nothing, to be disappointed for you. People who feel a little bit, tired and feel thinking about I had enough. But it is part of our human existence. Exhaustions, disappointment, difficulties. It's very much part of our existence. So don't feel what you call don't feel sort of embarrassed if you are showing some exhaustions. Just accept it. That's how it is. Okay. So I want to add on a little bit the meditation. So yesterday, from the meditation, just the general meditation, to cultivate mental qualities of stability and the clarity. And the tools that I have mentioned are the mindfulness and the introspection. The overall hindrances that we face are the exaltation and the laxity. So those are which we had a brief discussion. So today here, people who would like to learn, the meditation to enhance degrees of stability in our mental continuum, and also have a degrees of clarity. In terms of the session, the session, as I mentioned maybe before, should be, shouldn't be too long, even if you have a time, even if you are very energetic to do the meditation. Initially, while you are learning, session should not be longer than 7-10 minutes. And then if you have time, still have energy, have a break, then have another or another session, 7-10 minutes, like that. That's very, very helpful. Another, this hour I have already said. Another important thing is if you are relatively new and are going to do this meditation in a regular basis, then it makes different. The clothes what you wear, not very tight. Particularly at the belly level, at the leg, have a little bit loose clothes. That will help to feel more relaxed. Also, the area where you do the meditation. Yesterday I mentioned, somewhere to have a less distractions. It doesn't need to be a particular unique place, a place less distractions, but have a little bit light, not dark. There are some traditions, tend to say, and I myself experienced that when I joined some of other meditation sessions or the meditation, these gatherings. As soon as you do the meditation session, the light is dimmed, low down. It feels, have a little bit dark. It feels it is helping to bring the attention to right here and now. But soon it will bring the other side of the problem, the downness. It will bring more downness. So not very helpful to have a little bit, not bright, but a little bit light. And also in terms of the place temperature, not too warm. Warm will, though it is very comfortable, particularly if you are living in a cold place or country, warm, sort of have lots of layers on your lap and put lots of things, beautiful or very comfortable shawls or whatever, you feel very nice, but it will bring another, the sense of downness, downness. So I would suggest light clothes, or not very warm, or room, little bit cool, little bit chill. Initially, you may feel uncomfortable, but once you start to do the meditation, that feeling of chill will slowly disappear. And what will that bring? Sense of freshness. The sense of freshness, and which is very, very good for the mind to do the meditation. So some of these also not very good soon after having a delicious dinner, lunch. Much better to have a, not empty belly, but not full belly is not helpful. I will tell you one of my experience. It sounds now, you can tell I'm old enough to say lots of experiences. Those days I was traveling quite a lot to Spain and France, leading classes, leading meditations and so forth. And one time I was asked to come to Marrakesh in Morocco and to lead a group of people retreat. It was in a very, very comfortable area, big courtyard, and all we are staying in the individual rooms, and it was just weekend, but very, very comfortable. And the foods are this Moroccan, so many different kinds of nuts and beans, and cook in this beautiful, what you call the clay pots, and amazing. So I think the first day might be the first day, evening. I had a lot because that was delicious. Next morning, I was supposed to go to lead meditation. I overslept. I hardly done like that, before and after. It is due to eating a lot, very heavy, so eating a lot, so just overslept. So like that, it is also why the Buddha, asked his Sangha, not to eat after the meal, just one meal. Because it gives your body that freshness. So anyway, to have that kind of, because working with the mind needs to look around those small things around us, within us, and it will make our training the mind much easier. Looking around those small things, they might be insignificant by it just itself, but making sure all the many small things, when they all come together, it will create very, very favorable condition to do the meditation. So like that. And once, you started to sit on a cushion or on a chair, it is always helpful to raise your back cushion a little bit higher than the front. Not too high, a little bit higher than the front. That will keep your back to straight. Very by itself, raising the back cushion a little bit higher, that will help. You don't need to, what you call deliberately raise your back. As long as you sit on the cushion or on chair, when your back cushion or chair is raised a little bit higher, this will help to bring your back straight. Because, due to the physiological, structure, to have a fresh and, the mind to do the meditation, the movement of the energy in our body, again, it has a strong connection. As I mentioned, in the first day, it is not just exclusively Buddhist understanding or Buddhist practice. Ancient Indian spiritual traditions, they all have instruction, and also importance or the understanding of our minds or our consciousness work with the energy within our body. In Tibetan, the term is used, lung sen chupa chupa. Lung sen, lung is the energy, or sometimes term is used, wind. Chupa chupa has a meaning of they work together. Where the energy, is sort of gathered, the mind will come there. So the useful to raise your back. And doesn't need to be sit in a cross leg like that. You can sit which one is comfortable, like a chair sitting. If you do the chair sitting, then helpful to put something like in my size, tiny 5 feet something. If the chair is too high, your legs are dangling, which is not very helpful. As I mentioned yesterday, that my experience in Toulouse, that's what. To have if chair is too high, then to have some kind of support under your feet, to feel your feet very stable. So those are something useful, and to learn. And this body, posture, body in a sitting posture. Once you, maybe it may take few months to find out to sit comfortably, correctly, and then it will become very, very much, automatic. Don't need to. But initially, it is good to pay attention, not to adopt, not to adopt uncomfortable body posture, in a body posture which will not help your mind to rest and to cultivate in this case concentration. Then here once you do that, either what you call these days quite popular style of meditation, simply to raise the awareness and pay attention to whatever comes into your mind, without judging, without rejecting, simply acknowledging, or I don't think acknowledging is the right word, aware of what's happening, but not really provoking, not really rejecting, which yesterday the expression that I use, moment by moment, judgmental awareness. That's these days quite popular and also very useful. Now, this tradition that I follow, based on these great Indian masters, I mentioned a few names yesterday and today, and particularly this Indian master called Asanga. He has written several important texts for the meditation, and also later, quite later, about around 10th century Common Era, Kamala Shila, and his teacher Shankarakshita, Shankarakshita. So those great teachers, particularly the Kamala Shila, has written 3, not very extensive, but relatively short 3 texts for the meditation. And in those texts, when these teachers explain in terms of the cultivation of mental qualities of stillness and clarity, they have suggested it is useful to select an object. It is up to the individuals what object to choose, but it is good to choose an object that your mind anchor on. Do you remember? Yes, the day before yesterday, I used 2 terms, to kind of meditation in the sense, how the meditation is done. The first one is called, placement meditation. The other one is called analytical meditation. And here we are talking about placement meditation. So place your mind on a selected object. Selection can be done according to the individual's mental dispositions, backgrounds. Something that you can select right here and now with your body, like a breathing, like a sensation, something right here and now. That's perfectly fine. Or people who are, in the Tibetan Buddhist traditions, because there is a heavy, or there's a right word. There's a huge element of Vajrayana practice. Then tend to advise to visualize, use the image of a Buddha. Then use that image. Mentally created. When I use the image, mentally created, constructed image of Buddha as in your meditation object. But it is up to the individuals. People who have a difficulty, initially to face or to experience heavy excitation, or this easy to be have a habit, the mind easy to be distracted. Then it is in this instruction it said it is good to use breathing, because breathing is right here and now. Easy to connect your mind, which is such as breathing, or the sensations. Your hands are on your knees, or they are in one top each other in your lap. That's sensation. But again, not labeling, not judging, saying it's nice or it is not nice, not giving all those, labels. Simply, aware of that sense of touch. So this I already mentioned several times. This 14th century great Tibetan teacher, meditator, scholar, and also great practitioner. In his, he has just Tsongkhapa has written 18 volumes of texts, without computer, without electricity, and they're not having Googles to check, but have written 18 volumes. And then, he passed away age 64, not that old. But in that period of time, had written amazing 18 volumes of, teachings. Among them, there is one text which is called Great Treatise of Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. London Chamo. Great Treatise of the Stages of the Path to Enlightenment. These days, it is translated into English, and it had the one volume in English. They are determined with 3 volumes, and the last volume third volume, dedicated, particularly the first part, is dedicated for the cultivation of shamatha, single-pointed mind. And in that text, he had gone lists of objects of meditation to be selected by the individuals according to the individual's mental suitability. So that is here. And his texts, not only this one, all other texts, main sources that he referred to are those great Indian masters. There are some Tibetan, the teachers' citation or quotations he had quoted, but the main, the quotations that he referred to to justify what he is saying back to the Indian sources, Indian masters, which is amazing to see that that people can do writings 18 volumes under that kind of situation. It sounds entire 60-something years keep writing, but not. He had gone to meditation many times. With some of his close friends, spiritual friends, gone into meditation and so forth. And also he established, he found this amazing monastery. It's called Galvin Monastery. Near central Tibet, near Lhasa, there were 3 major monasteries. The Galvin Monastery, and the other 2 monasteries. One where I come from, Tsering. These are funded by some of his great students. Anyway, so point what I'm making here is, according to the traditions that I'm following, that I'm familiar with, having an object that your mind placed on, and through that cultivating stillness and authority. It will take time really to settle down which object. Do you remember the other day I said you can experiment meditation styles, or the same as in here, to search, to experiment. Is breathing working? Is counting the breathing working? Is sensation working? Or the image of Buddha, or image of flower, whatever. Something that your mind finds comfortable to rest with it. So selecting an object of the meditation, once through experiments, different objects of the meditations, once you have selected one, then it's much better not to, after a few weeks, okay, I want to try other one. Not very helpful. Keep changing is not very helpful. Initially, to really experiment different meditation objects. Ask some of those experienced meditators, and eventually it will end up on ourselves, because we are working with our own mind. not those great meditators' mind. Isn't it? So eventually it is upon ourselves. So then the first thing is really very much to your mind to learn, to stay with it, with the object of meditation. The technical term is used in Tibetan, jogpa. Jogpa literally it means to place. Place your mind on the object of meditation. It may not last that long, your mind be with the object of meditation in the early stage, just for a few seconds if you are lucky. As soon as you think, oh yeah, our mind is with the object, it's already gone. But useful not to feel sense of failure, not to feel sense of frustrations. No, these are not very helpful. Accept it. That is the learning process. That is the training process. Yes, it is good to have ambitious, but too ambitious is not helpful. It is the sign of failure. Now, having ambitious is good, but the unrealistic ambitious is not very helpful. Be realistic. And what one of my teachers used to say, be kind to yourself. That's important. Here there are a few Westerners. I learned Westerners are very, very good at beating themselves up. I'm not good enough. And that's not very helpful here. But the Tibetans, I'm not going to talk about the Easterners, but Tibetan, we are completely opposite. Say, oh, it will sort it out tomorrow. That kind of very relaxed. Maybe next life. If it didn't work this life, okay, I'll try next life. That kind of very too relaxed. Westerners want to do right now and here. If it didn't work. So that is, here what we need is very skillful. Very skillful. Not to beat and not to criticize ourselves all the time. Be realistic and be kind to ourselves. Because working with our mind, particularly something which our mind hasn't done in this lifetime, maybe in the past we don't know. In this lifetime, our minds all the time, we let it go wherever it wants to go, from here to UK, from here to Canada, wherever. It's easy to go. Don't need to buy a flight ticket or anything like that. It's good. Because that is so far how our mind stays with us. So in that case, it is not easy to say, no, now you have to stay with me. Here, right here, and now. Place with this object. So initially, there are challenges. There are difficulties. Be prepared for that. Don't expect even instantly it's going to work. No. But it will work if we have that kind of persistence, if we have that kind of continuation. It will work. and then our mind will stay with the object of the meditation. So that's the first one, jogpa. Simply to place your mind with the object of the meditation. Be your mind with the object of the meditation, whatever that you have selected. Once you start to feel, oh, yes, it is with the object of the meditation, then from there, then you need to see, can you make it longer duration. Initially, duration is not our, the sort of task. Initially, it's simply placing with the object of meditation. As long as it has already gone with the patient, bring back. Even in a period of 7 minutes, we may need to do at least 15, 20, 30 times. There, not there, not there. But gradually, the duration will increase. Once we start to see that, feel that, experience that, then the what you call the focus, or the focus is, can I extend that duration from 10 seconds to 15 seconds? That is the like that. Jogpa. So in here, out of the two qualities that we are going to cultivate, at this stage is simply we are trying to cultivate stability, stillness. Not at this stage, we are not touching on the second quality, which is the clarity. This will come later. Once the stillness, the qualities of stillness, or the stability is experienced within our mental continuum, then the focus should move on to, can I get clarity? In that stillness, can I get clarity? Which is another important quality. So, the useful or helpful to learn, how to work with our mental state to have a decrease of stillness and the clarity. That's today's meditation. The Dharma maybe say a few words with the meditation. I'm a little bit confused which one to say first. Anyway, I'll say this. Training our mind. Sometimes within the different mindsets, this point that I'm going to discuss with you, there are 3 different mental states. The earlier one helps to nurture the next one, and the next one helps to nurture, to enhance the next one. So there are 3, which I'm going to talk briefly now. First, to name the 3. Literal Tibetan translation, first one is called faith. this is how people translate. But anyway, I'll use that faith. The second is in Tibetan, dumba. Dumba, aspiration. Aspiration. That is second one, dumba. The third is concentration. Is concentration. So it's in Tibetan, it says like this. Tepa dumbe gyu. Faith is cause, or faith caused to bring aspiration. Tepa dumbe gyu. Dumba means ne or she. That second one, aspiration, is the base to cultivate concentration. Concentration. So these three, because we haven't muddled up a little bit, I should deal with first this, another way of categorizing the minds. There are several different ways to categorize the mind. One is called the mind and mental factor. Don't pay that much attention here. I'm just simply throwing this mind and mental factor. Technically, these three, faith, aspiration, and concentration, belongs to mental factor. Mental factor. Okay? So I will come back that tomorrow with these two, mind and mental factor different, but today we are going to look at a little bit these three: faith, aspiration, and concentration, to cultivate a good concentration. It has a strong connection with the aspiration. To have a, aspiration, it has connected to the faith. So those are the three. So now here the first one, faith, deva in Tibetan. Or sometimes I tend to use the term, instead of faith, conviction. Because faith carries some existing or anyway other connotations, the connotation of conviction. So Buddhist psychology texts like the Abhidhamma texts and some other texts, the conviction in Tibetan, deva, conviction, faith. There are three kinds or three types. The first one is called, the Tamwe deva. Tamwe deva. Tamwa, it has a meaning of clarity. Clarity, I'm literal translating. Clarity in the sense, once you see the qualities, once you understand the qualities, in this case, qualities of the concentration, your mind, that kind of feeling, or what in English sometimes term is used, wow factor. Wow, it's amazing. That is, you said that, I heard this very often in English. Wow, that it has this kind of, your mind's blown, amazing. Wow, that is Deva. Once you see, understand the, in this case, qualities of the concentration, then your mind's just amazed. That kind of conviction. Conviction from the seeing the qualities of the concentration. Your mind is very, very sort of, convinced this is it. Dhammadeva. Very, very helpful. The second one is Modakiteva, Mobarudevedeva. Conviction that you would like to have. Deva, Mobarudevedeva. You would like to have concentration in this case. Once you have a conviction, the first one that I use the wow factor conviction, then this will grow. This will help to bring the second conviction that you would like to have. You would like to have that quality. Wanting to have. Then third faith or conviction is ichikiteva. Then you trust with that qualities. Have a conviction or the trust. This will not let me down. That kind of conviction is needed. So these are all three are called in Tibetan faith, but they all involve understanding of the qualities of concentration in this case. They're all involved with the concentration. Once you understand and learn the qualities of the concentration, when you feel, wow, that's amazing, then this will lead you to yearning to have it. Have it yourself. And this, to yearning, wanting to have it, then this will lead to trust. Very, very useful. My example is not a very nice example, but it is, it will work. Once you see the seasonal, fashion, clothes, color, or the design, whoever choose that particular, winter clothes, the colors, or the summer clothes, seasonal fashion. Once you seeing that particular design and color, seeing that, triggers you feel, wow. Even if your credit card is not completely, I don't know what's the right word, you may go and buy. Or these days, very easy to buy it online. And that is the connection here. Exactly the same mental process. Currently, many of us, we don't have the, we don't work that much to cultivate these mental qualities because we don't have a genuine wow feeling towards that. To have that, in order to have that, that amazing quality, mental quality, then we need to read, listen, learn what are the benefits. So the conviction or the faith leads us, aspiration, the second one. In this case, aspire to have concentration, Dumba. In Buddhism, in Buddhist, the teachings, this mental factor aspiration is very, very important part of the, mental state. If there's no aspiration, in this case, aspiration towards the concentration, we're never going to cultivate concentration. So Dumba, aspiration is extremely important mental factor to achieve or to experience the goal, in this case, concentration. So that's why these Buddhist teachers said aspiration is the base, the foundation, in this case, to grow, to cultivate, the concentration. It is not just learning the techniques which I taught, which I explained earlier, how to say, how to choose the object of the meditation. It's not just learning the techniques. It is equally important to have the mental sort of these mental practice. So these three are very, very useful. I'm using the term mental factor. I will explain what is mental factor tomorrow. Thereby, conviction or faith. This will lead, and this mental factor will lead us to have an aspiration. And aspiration will lead us to have a concentration. Here we are talking about related to the concentration or through the meditation. So there's this, and that kind of what you call the sense, it will work, or the many other mental qualities to enhance or to develop faith or conviction, and that leads us aspiration. So in the Buddhist literatures, very often you will come across saying, faith is the root, sawa, the root. Mondo mother, mother, sawa. So there was here conviction. Mondo means something that need to go in a very initial stage, in a very early stage. It is like a mother giving a birth, to children. So once the faith, in this case, the conviction, those three conviction, different kinds of three conviction are there, other mental qualities will follow. Other mental qualities will follow. Here, the faith or conviction, we are not talking about a blind faith. We are not talking about a faith to some kind of, some kind of, spiritual sort of, creatures or beings. We are talking about faith or conviction with the mental qualities. So that is something useful to explore, something useful to explore. Oh yeah. As I mentioned at the beginning of this session, people who are relatively new, there are so many terms or labels you need to learn. And there are so many, these technical things that you need to learn. You may find quite, heavy or too much. And then there isn't that much I can do, If I repeated yesterday's or day before yesterday once, you may feel, this he already said yesterday. But need to move forward, so I need to say these new things. But it may not work right here and now. That once you have heard once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, then slowly it will make sense. It will, like what you call that ancient mosaic, the floor. There are so many small pieces. If you look at it individually, there isn't that much pattern. But when you look at it from the above, then there's amazing patterns. Like that, training the mind, working with the mind is really looking from many different angles and giving times to nurture, to grow, to nurture. Need to give time to grow those understandings or those the mental qualities. Okay. Now I want to see what kind of question you have. We have plenty of time, almost an hour. I want to see.
About the mental consciousness and the self-consciousness.
Okay.
The causes of self-consciousness are the object which encounter the subject. About the mental consciousness which arises as a continuum, one mental image after the other one. Can you elaborate about the causes which create this kind of flare of mental images in the mind?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question here. So your question, if I got correctly, saying you understand, you have understood the object of the sense consciousnesses, but you would like to know a little bit further the object of the mental consciousnesses, how the mental consciousness is continue one after another. Is that your question? The sense consciousnesses, the first I will say this because I didn't explain that much because it is written quite well in the text that you have, so I didn't say that much. So any given either sense consciousness or mental consciousness, any given consciousness, whether valid or invalid, whether conceptual or non-conceptual. Now we know those things a little bit. So any consciousness to arise, to come into function, function, always come into function with the 3 conditions. And this is clearly mentioned in the text, so I avoid to say that under 3 conditions. First condition is called, the Migul. Migul here refers to, I can't remember what is translated here, the where the mind is, engaged. And earlier we got the term engaged object, where that particular mind, is engaged with. For example, to the sense consciousness, the eye sense consciousness, when it arises, in order to arise it or come into function, there must be, either shape or color. That's the engaged object for the eye sense consciousness. Then another condition is called an empowering condition. The first one is object condition. Second one is empowering condition. That refers to with the sense to the sense consciousnesses, sense organs. These are physical. Sense organs are physical. For the sight, eye, smell, taste, tactile, all these sense consciousnesses, they are dependent on their own sense organs. According to the Buddhist, literatures, Abhidhamma literatures, those sense organs are physical, yet they are very, very tiny, small. For our naked eye, may not be seeing them, or we cannot see them. So that is what they call sense organ. That is the second condition, empowering condition. The third condition is called immediate condition. Immediate condition. So my current eye consciousness, just looking at this, while looking at this recorder or the phone, current one is its immediate condition was the previous moment of my eye consciousness, or it can be previous moments of my mental consciousness. In other words, that condition, Tenmatakin in Tibetan, it is called Tenmatakin, immediate condition, in the sense, the previous consciousness is current moment of consciousness, immediate condition. So that really, all the consciousnesses, either sense or mental, or conceptual or non-conceptual, they all arise or come into events or come into function based on these three conditions: object conditions, empowering conditions, and immediate conditions. Tematakin in last one. Last one is a little bit difficult to understand. Now the difference, now you are coming to your question, the difference between the sense consciousnesses and the mental consciousness come from the second conditions. The second condition, which is empowering condition, for the five sense consciousnesses, as I just said earlier, for the five sense consciousnesses, the second condition is form, matter. The empowering condition is matter, form. For the mental consciousness, the second condition, empowering condition, is mental state, not a physical or the form, not a physical or not a form. It is a mental state. So in other words, the difference between the sense consciousnesses and the mental consciousness, difference comes from the second conditions. second condition. For the sense consciousnesses to arise, to function, the second condition is physical or form. For the mental consciousness, second condition is also a mental state. So in other words, for the mental consciousness, almost all the three conditions, object condition, empowering condition, immediate condition, those three conditions that make mental consciousness to come into function, to come into event, that kind of function, they all, I would say they all are, the non-physical. Just think about that. I'm repeating that. For the mental consciousness, all three conditions, mental consciousness that can be conceptual, that can be non-conceptual, that can be valid, or that can be invalid, mistaken. As long as it is mental consciousness, all three conditions are, not physical, not form. For the sense consciousnesses, first two conditions, object conditions and empowering conditions, these two are form or physical. The last one is mental, not form, not physical. So that is here. Now, I may have answered half part of your question, but another half part of your question, you're saying how is continuing? That is your half part of your question. Now, the continuation of any either sense consciousnesses or the mental consciousness to continue continue as a function in the sense cognizing, realizing its object or their object. It depends, that continuation, how long, how far, it depends on, whether these three conditions exist or not. If the three conditions are continue, for example, to the side as my eye consciousness, momentarily to continue for given 10 seconds or 20 seconds, the three conditions must be there. As long as one condition is collapsed, my eye consciousness cannot continue. And it is the same to the mental consciousness. My mental consciousness to continue one moment to the next moment in an event of cognizing, the three conditions must be there. So it depends on how it's going to continue. It depends on whether three conditions are are present or not. Like that? Yeah. I feel it. But this the printed text has mentioned quite nicely those three conditions. You can read from there. I deliberately leave it that because it is already mentioned. So I thought you people will do your homework a little bit. Any other question? Yeah.
I don't know exactly what's the question, but what about, for example, in art?
In art,
Yes,
art,
abstraction.
abstraction.
So like description of an inner reality, that's also happening on like a continuous like sort of improvisation, which like it's when the making of that abstraction, the sort of improvisation, the sort of letting go of that sensible. There's something there that's I'm just wondering what you like. Is there how can you explain that?
I'm not very clear your question, but I want to say one experience that I had, and this may answer your question, but I'm not sure. In my early time in London, when the center was in North London, compared to the current center, it is small, as I mentioned yesterday or day before yesterday, in terms of the size, and also in terms of the people who come to the class, maximum 15 people, not that many. So there was a very, very nice lady from Guatemala, that small island in South America. And I think her mother is Indian, her father is English. I never met them, but I know her quite well. So she used to come to my class, classes, and she also learned Tibetan from me a little bit, because those early times, I lead Dharma class as well as language class, relatively young. I'm quite capable to do that, but later I gave up teaching Tibetans. As you know, teaching language is not easy. Not only you speak Tibetan or you read Tibetan, therefore you can teach Tibetan. That's not the case. You need particular skill. All this, what you call the materials. So anyway, so she came to some of my Tibetan class. So I was with my broken English, I was leading class on the subject of emptiness. Emptiness, that means nothing exists from its own right or from its own side. Everything is mentally labeled, mentally designated. So that was my class for maybe a few weekends. I can't remember exactly. So I was taken to see one of those famous abstract paintings in a museum. I can't remember exactly where. Those days, you have to pay entrance fees in London. Now, these days, relatively free, particularly those so governments, you don't need to pay any entrance fees, which is very, very nice. Those days, you have to pay fees. So I was taken by one of my Westerner friends to see these abstract, painting museums. I was deeply disappointed to see those, and I think the entrance fee was quite high for me. It's quite high, but what I've seen is there are lots of canvas, but just a few lines. So that was my first time to see these abstract. Growing up in a very traditional, conservative, community, the Buddhas must be this size. Color must be like this. Although I never trained myself, but that's what I heard. But then going into a museum, paying entrance fees, then canvas after canvas, all these different colors. the stove installs like this. What? So I was very shocked with that. But I was told by my friend, they are very, very expensive. So that was, so then that weekend I was teaching on emptiness. And the poor man who don't have the cultural background, don't understand all those things. And I gave an example. Nothing exists from its own ground. Because I said I went to a museum and there are not many this particular abstract, and I saw these paintings, and I said there's nothing meaning in there. Although my friend said it costs a lot, I said even if somebody given to me, I will not take it with me. So that's what I said. And that's what really truly I felt. So I don't know that time that my friend, she was one of those painters. And the next weekend, she was not there. Got a little bit, because she was very enthusiastic, and I thought she might be ill, or there might be some urgent things. She was not there. And a week after, she was not there. I mean, those days we don't have mobile or social media. That was, I'm talking about 1995 or 6. But then, we had a social event one afternoon in the center. Every center hostess have a small backyard, and we had a social event. And she came. I said, "Are you all right?" Well, she wasn't talking to me. She was deeply, upset. I later understood, and then, of course, time passed. We have good friends. So that is how it is. So I want to know about your question. So this abstract art, you're talking about how to perceive it. Is that what you're asking?
No, more, I mean, sort of answered in some ways. It was more asking about how, like the making, I mean, I guess it depends on the sort of, like, yeah, right.
Okay, that's very good. My answer to you, So I learned through these, through these kind of encountering the culture and the consciousness, what you're going to use to example, and something which is shock or something which is nothing meaning for me. To others, there are lots of meanings, lots of purpose. So I thought, okay, I have to be very careful.
Actually, so are there any loop words?
Sorry.
Are there any, so then I rephrase my question. Are there any loop words?
Loopholes.
Yes.
Mhm.
To the, like, conceptual, like images or images of things that would come from the mind that are just before, like, the ungraspable moment of the present, if that makes sense. It's sort of like, unified, like something that comes from the body that you have to necessarily let go, so that doesn't belong to the senses of the six consciousnesses. Because it's necessarily something that's like coming from that sort of like letting go moment just before the present moment. That makes sense. Wait, right.
Okay. I don't get it anyway, sorry. Okay. We will talk. Okay. Yeah.
So how do we understand or learn about the water qualities of concentration and how to develop a conviction for that.
Okay. Value or qualities or concentration or any kind of mental states like love, compassion. Initially, it is through some reliable people's, explanation. That is how we way to learn. Because for us at this stage, we ourselves don't have the experience of concentration. But when we read, hear, discuss with those people who have experienced, concentration, and from their explanation, what are the benefits? That's the first thing. I think the most of the learning, even not only concentration, most of the learning in the early stage is very much from others. When we are a child, when we are young, we learn lots from our mothers, from our parents. So it is exactly the same. But then that understanding of the qualities of the concentration, which explained by those people, then we need to, we need to digest by ourselves. The Tibetan, the other term, need to, in Tibetan, it says Tashi. That means to really, like the goldsmith, as I mentioned earlier, testing his or her gold, cutting, rubbing, burning, through that to bring the purity of the gold. Similar to that, once we have heard from those experienced people the qualities or the benefits of the concentration, then we need to experiment by ourselves. Of course, eventually it will be, quite tiny, but even from that tiny bit that that we gain from cultivation of conscience, the stability and the clarity, then we need to move it further and further. So it is really initially learning from others, but in some scholars, Western scholars, they use the term, borrowing others' knowledge. Borrowing others' knowledge. Just those experienced people tell us, learning from them, but it is not our own knowledge. To become our own knowledge, then we have to go into rigorous analysis, experiment, and from that we will know. Yeah? Completely blank.
I have a very difficult time with visualization.
Okay.
Even when I have done lots of sitting meditation and had a relatively stable mind, getting anything to appear is very difficult. Even when I feel like my mind is quite stable, do you have suggestions on how to work with it?
So, just say what kind of image that you do the visualization. Do you do the image or other things?
I mean, I don't use an image because it's like even getting an image to appear long enough to say I'm meditating on it seems very, very difficult.
So when you say I have a difficulty with the visualization, what things that you visualize?
I mean, I have tried with the image of the Buddha or different things like that, but it's like I can't get enough to stay the image. do the meditation.
Yes, I think to use image, like a Buddha image of Buddha, as our meditation object to visualize. Initially, really need to familiarize, even in the visual way, visually familiarize that object, that image, that image. More we visually, very physically, looking at whatever statue of the Buddha, painting of the Buddha, whatever that you're going to use, really visually familiarize with that image. If you do that, it will be easier than later to get the mental image. That's the first thing. This is very worldly things. I want to say this. For me, as this morning I mentioned, once we did a walking retreat in Wales, I can still see the image of dripping waters. And another one, more pleasant one, those early 2000 in the UK, I think it might be in other part. There is a particular company called lastminute.com. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Have you heard that? Okay. But now it's closed in UK, as far as I know. And it is very good for those days for me. A single man, it's quite easy to run away from London. Also, at that time I was got British passport. So not many times, but occasionally, I have a small bag, small bag, and then go to the Gatwick. Not Heathrow, Gatwick is good, relatively easy from the way I was living those days. And go to the Gatwick, go to the lastminute.com counter and ask to have South Spain for the weekend, for 4 days. And very often you will get it. For flight, just £1. Plus, of course, they will add it on the airport tax. But return £1. And they will arrange all year from the airport to this hotel, from hotel to back to the airport. Very, very nice. Every 3 days, you'll get less than £120. Very, very nice. But if you don't get it, come back. That's what they did. Who cares if you don't get it? And then pay another £6, go back to London, get into my flat. So point of what I'm using is this. One of those, going to South Spain or those Canary Islands. There's one beautiful island called Lanzarote, which I like that place. And one time I ended up in a very, very, nice beach. In a hotel, there are those hotels, but in front of those hotels, there's a really beautiful beach. I mean, I don't like lying down at the beach. I don't like this sun or some of those things. But seeing it, the bay and seeing those color of the sand and that still gets image in my mental image. So the first thing, these examples are not good, but it is how it is. To get a visualization image of Buddha, first is visually you need to look at in an image of Buddha that you're going to use. Later, then it is mental image. It is not visual image, but it is mental image that you need to great, but that is very useful to know. Then another thing is, quite often we make mistake is, say the image of Buddha related, compared to the other quite complicated other deities, Buddha image is relatively simple. So when you say I visualize image of Buddha, we try to get this right at the beginning. We try to get the whole, the head, the eyes, face, body. That will not work. That will not work. There are two ways usually those great teachers have taught. Either first have a blueprint of that image. Just the head. 3 round, I usually say. 3 round head, body, sitting, the bottom. Just 3 round. Then add a little bit on head area, little bit hand bit. Add on, add on, add on.
Like 3 circles, basically, very simple.
Yeah, 3 circles initially. Then once your mind is able to stay with these 3 circles, then add a little bit and like this. Not all the detailed fingers or not like that, just a bit. Just a little bit here and there. So then add it more and more and more, and it will go detail and detail and detail. So eventually you will get the full picture, image of the Buddha. That's the one way. The another way is start just focus on the forehead here, then slowly expand it with the detail. With the detail. If we do the image of Buddha, just try to bring image of Buddha, our mind will be all over the Buddha's body. Sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here. Very, very difficult. It will not going to work. So my suggestion, so far what I made 3 points. The first is image of Buddha. If you're going to use image of Buddha, physically try to get a very clear picture. Either statue or painting, which you feel really beautiful, nice. In terms of size, not too big, not too small. If it's too big, your mind will be scattered because of the size. If it is too small, you will find very difficult, particularly in the early training. So that's the first thing. The second thing is which one that suits your mind. Having the blueprint and gradually adding details, then eventually get the full. Or pinpoint at one area, then expand that with the detail. So once you do that, then you will get whole image of Buddha very clear. And that is mental construction. Mentally need to construct the image. It will not come just to see it Buddha visually. That's how usually, if you look at the meditation manual, there's always sequence, mandala, the base, the 4 corners, 4 doors, and it goes up and up and up. Those are the meditation manuals these days. We just read But these are the meditation manual. So you can tell from the meditation manual how to visualize. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. There's one first down there.
Thank you. Additional to this question is, I usually use image to the image in my meditation. For the purpose of I imagine, I contemplate on figure, so it is the whether in his hand. So I contemplate about children like this. The question is that I do not go to the menu or the traditional way. Some traditional way just lights come to you when you become purified by light. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't do that. So is that right, or what is the correct way to do that imagination practice? Is that wrong if I don't do in the traditional way? That is my question.
I'm not going to say don't do, because I don't get very clearly everything in this short statement. I don't know what to say don't do. But what is important is, if your purpose, even if you use image of Buddha or image of Bodhisattva, your purpose is simply to get to cultivate mental stability and the clarity. It is fine. You don't have to have entire image of the Buddha. For example, sometimes I say to the people, just focus on the Buddha's hand, the begging bowl. Just focus on that. Don't although the overall is image of Buddha, but your focus is on that begging bowl. Or like an image of Buddha Amitabha, it has nice touching in a meditative posture. Sometimes I suggest to people that two thumbs touching. Just focus your mind there. Though the overall is image of Buddha, but your focus, stability and clarity is cultivated just at the thumb. But for people who like to have a, in the long term, have an image of Buddha in their mind as a focus, then it is good to train in the early stage, going stage by stage. Did I answer your question?
Okay, so it's two questions. It's to add on this and the question. When we construct an image in mentally to visualization, it's necessarily not just an image, it's also sort of like feelings. For example, if I visualize with Tara, so it's like there's also this nice feelings of warmth and so on. So I'm just wondering if so that was a question that I had before you explained the conditions. But can you generate concentration on love?
On
Love,
love.
or joy, or if you really focus on visualizing something that brings you, that you know that you can construct, that's not necessarily real, but that generates that thing that you can actually focus on.
Okay, now it depends on your main aim or the purpose. Focusing on the image of the Buddha is simply to cultivate qualities of the stability and the clarity. Then don't follow whatever feeling is there, joyful or whatever. Just ignore it. Not to follow, simply to cultivate stability and the clarity. Even if there is an amazing virtuous thought occurs during the meditation, don't follow. That is distraction. No, that's distraction. But if your goal is to cultivate love and compassion, or love, then of course that is your focus. Then there's no reason to hold on that. But there's a big disappointment that will not last long. Then have a deep, big disappointment. That I can tell from my experience. You feel in your stage and early part of your session. Amazing. But amazing won't last forever. The end of the session, big disappointment. Okay, so shall we say the total power prayers? To page 270. Om Je Pamatuma Cha Chāngzē rōmā nyōmā pāmō, chēnē kēchī lōtāṃ chāmā, jīgē sōngbē chūyē shēgī, kēsā chēwā nēnī chōmā, chāngzē tōnggē dāwā kūntō, kāwā jēnī sīkē shēmā, kāmā tōngdā sōpā nāṃ, rādō chēgē rāpā, Chāngzē sēngū chūne kē, pēmē chāne nāmbar kēmā, kēpā tūndū kātū shēmā, sāvā samdēn chūnīmā, chāngzē tēshīn shēbē tsūdō, tāyē nāmbar kyāvā chēmā, mālū pārū chēmbā tōpē, kyālē sēkī shīndū tēmā, Chāngzē tūdā rāhu yēgē, dēdā chokdā nāngā kāma, jīgē dōmbō shākī nēndē, lūpā mēpā gūpā nūma, chāngzē gyājīn mēlā sāmbā, lōngā nāsō wāñchū chūma, chōmbō rōlā tēsā nāmdā, nējīn sōjī lūnē dō, Chāngzē kēchē chātāṃ pēkē, pārō chōgō rāpū chōmā, ēgō yuñjā shākī nēndē, mēbrā chūpā shīndō pāma, chāngzē tūrē chīpā chīmbō, dīnyē pāwō nāpā chōmā, chīgyē shēnē tōnyē tēnzē, tāwō tāṃjē mālū sūmā, Chāngzē kuñjō sōngzē chāngē, sēmē tōkā nāmbar kēmā, mālū chōngkē kōlō kēmē, rāngē rēkē sōnāṃ chēmā, chāngzē rāpū kāwā kēmē, ōnyē rēkē chēnwā pēmā, shēwā rāshē tūdā rāyē, dēdā chēkē wāndū tsēmā, Chāngzē sāshī chōngwē sōna, tāngzē gūpā nūmā nīmā, sōnyē yewā yīgē hōngē, pōmbā tāngzē nāmbā chōma, chāngzē tāvē tūmbō, gyēmbā tāngzē shīndō pāma, rēvē chēnē lōpā mēdā, tāvā shīndō rāvā tsēmā, Chāngzē kēvē tāmā mēdā, Barve Chenwe Bune Nema, Yeda Yun Kum Kune Ko, Dai Pune Nambara Cho, Changze Sashi Mala Chagi, Tegi Nejin Shakti Dong, Chonye Chenze Yige Hongi, Rinpa Dumbo Namni Gema, Changze Dema Gema Shema, Nyange Deshi Chuni, Soa Om Da Ten, Iwa Chenpo Chompa Nima, Changze Kune Koraka, Tai Lune Nambar Gema, Yige Chubu Mane Gebe, Rewa Hule Dromani, Changze Shani Dabe, Honge Nabe Savini, Rame Dara Tandiche, Jigen Sona Yovani, Changze Lai Soli Nabe, Rida Dajin Chana Nama, Tara Niju Pedi Yige, Dona Malu Pani Sema, Changze Lai Sonam Gebo, Hata Niam Chi Dema, Gune Boja Dawa Chi, Zeda Milaman Nipa Sema, Changze Nima Dawa Gebe, Chini Bola Urava Sema, Hara Niju Dudara, Shindo Tagu Rimne Sema, Changze Dini Sumnam, Shive Tuda Yang Da Dema, Dunda Roma Nijin Sona, Chompa Turi Raksho Nyema, Sawe Mati Deva Dita, Changze Wani Yu Sa. Thank you. Thank you.